Well, what did I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? I told you exactly this. And then you have Season 4 coming out from mid to late July all the way into the pre-patch for the release of Dragonflight. This would be my... Okay, fine. Technically speaking, I was 1 week earlier. What I'm talking about is, of course, the news of the day, or rather the news of yesterday, which is that Blizzard has announced the end of Season 3 and the beginning of Season 4. Season 4, which will begin on August the 2nd. So I was just a week early in my prediction for the start of Season 4. I will still take it as a win. It's still within my parameters for my predictions. So, this announcement, what does this mean? Number one, let's immediately start with the most asked, the more frequently asked question about this announcement, which is what about Cutting Edge and what about Ahead of the Curve? If the new season is starting soon, what's going to happen to these two achievements? Well, of course, the answer has already been given by a dev, which is just about the most obvious answer. They are going away. Yes, we intend to close the current raiding tier for achievements, such as Ahead of the Curve and of course Cutting Edge, with the weekly reset on August the 2nd. They also further announce and add that we have additional tuning in the works, with a focus on the end encounters of Sepulcher, because we are aware, we know that currently far fewer guilds are on track to get Cutting Edge than on previous past years, so we want to address that in the coming weeks before Season 3 ends. So on top of the announcement of Season 3 ending and Season 4 beginning on August the 2nd, we also have the announcement that we are getting even more nerfs to Sepulcher to try to squeeze in as many guilds as possible. Remember that by this point in time, roughly 4 months into the tier, we should have gotten roughly 1500 guilds to defeat the last boss of the tier. Instead, we currently have around the 350 mark. So we are quite far behind in kills for this tier. Now, beyond this announcement itself, we now actually have pretty much the whole duration of the tiers we have gotten so far in Shadowlands, because we now know that Castonatria, the first tier of the expansion, lasted for 218 days, and then we have Sanctum of Domination, which lasted for 251 days, and then we have Sepulcher, which will last, given this announcement, only 155 days. Now, if we compare this to BFA, Uldir lasted 134 days, Battle of the Zarlor lasted 170 days, but that included in the middle the mini raid Crucible of Storms, and then you had Eternal Palace with 191 days, and then finally the big last tier of the expansion, Nyalota, which lasted 308 days. So a far more different timeline compared to the previous expansion, and even Legion, right? Because we have basically broken the streak of the last tier of the expansion is always super long and goes on for almost a year. If you guys remember, tiers like Siege of Orgrimmar, tiers like Hellfire, Citadel, if you remember tiers like Antorus, all these tiers lasted for like 10 months, 11 months, 12 months. Instead, in Shadowlands, we're gonna get a Sepulcher tier which lasted 5 months, and then we are getting a Season 4, a recycled raids tier, which will last 4 months-ish. If we continue to assume that Dragonflight will come out before the end of this year, then we have all of August, September, October, and November for Season 4, which is 4 months, and then wherever Dragonflight will come out, so less than 5 months anyways. What is kind of interesting is the original statement that Blizzard made about Season 4 lasting less, being a shorter than average season compared to previous ones. So we thought it was gonna last 4 months-ish, and the duration seems to be in line with the statement from Blizzard. The difference is that when we said that, we assumed that Dragonflight was coming out in March. Dragonflight was coming out in February, because this would have made, while Season 4 would have still lasted 4-ish months, it would have made Sepulcher a normal tier. It would have made it last 7 to 8 months. But the fact that Dragonflight is supposed to come out in December, more or less, also makes Sepulcher a very short tier, because 155 days for Sepulcher is very, 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 very short. Eternal Palace, a significantly shorter raid tier with far less bosses and far less difficult bosses than Sepulcher, lasted 191 days, basically lasted 1 more month than Sepulcher, while also being far easier than Sepulcher. Even something like Uldir, an even shorter and even easier raid tier, lasted just 20 days less than Sepulcher. So yes, we are gonna end up having a pretty short Season 4, but that also makes Sepulcher tier very, very short. Definitely too short for the complexity, the difficulty of the raid. We could have gotten a little bit longer of a duration for this tier. What we could also do, now that we know the start of Season 4, is start speculating on the release of Dragonflight. We have now 2 main questions about the release of Dragonflight. Number 1, are we going to get a pre-patch? Yeah, that's a question. Pre-patches have lasted in the previous expansions somewhere in between a full month to a couple of weeks. That's the first question. The second question is going to be, is the pre-patch going to be its own thing? It's going to be detached from Season 4, so Season 4 will end and then the pre-patch will begin, or will the pre-patch go alongside? Will the pre-patch go hand in hand with Season 4? We already know that Season 4 is an atypical season. In case you have missed the announcement from Blizzard, Season 4 will not have Hall of Fame. Season 4 will not have Arena and Mythic Plus titles, okay? So it will not have the traditional Blizzard-endorsed achievement for top players. It won't have an MDI, at least an official one. It won't have a race to world first, etc, 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 planned for it. Perhaps that's also the reason why there might be a pre-patch running alongside the season. Usually, pre-patch begins after the season. Why? Because the pre-patch is going to massively change the balance of the game. You know, many times a pre-patch has introduced completely new talents, reworked talents, passives, abilities, etc, etc. So basically it would break the season, it would break the meta, it would break the balance of the game in the raid or in Mythic Plus or in Arena even. So it was far too damaging for competitive integrity to continue to have a season running alongside the pre-patch. However, since we now know that Season 4 is not really going to be a serious season with serious rewards, perhaps that's a legitimate reason to believe that Season 4 will go alongside the pre-patch. Why am I saying this? In case you're missed out, Season 4 will have this new system, this new, I guess, test system for the raid, a fated system. Blizzard will be cycling which raid is going to be the end game raid every week and give it increased item level, fitting for Season 4, going all the way up to 300 plus item level. So the first week you will be able to go into Castelnatria. The next reset, Castelnatria will go back to being the normal Castelnatria of the start of the expansion with very low item level, and now Sanctum of Domination will be the raid with the increased item level and the new affix of the raid for Season 4, and then the third reset we will get Sepulcher again. So we have a 3-week cycle to cycle throughout all 3 different raids of this expansion. So the question is, if it starts on August the 2nd, if we have 6 cycles, so if we cycle through 3 different raids 6 times, we will need 18 weeks, 6 weeks per raid, which makes 18 weeks end in December the 6th, which is my predicted release date of Dragonflight. If we have 5 cycles, so if we have 5 weeks per raid, it's gonna end up on November the 15th, and then if we have 4 raid cycles, it's gonna end up by the end of October. So the question at this point, we know the cycles. 6 cycles of the raids is the start of December, 5 cycles of the raid is mid-November, and then 4 cycles of the raid is basically end of October, start of November. The question now is, do we have to add 2 weeks to a month on top of this because of the pre-patch? Or is the pre-patch going to run alongside this duration? Of course, if the 6 cycles turns out to be true and it ends up on December the 6th, it would be quite difficult to have a pre-patch after December the 6th, right? Because we are getting close to the end of December there. Perhaps if we get 6 cycles of the 3 raids being repeated, ending on December the 6th, that is the case, that is the option where the pre-patch might go alongside the season. If we get 5 cycles of the raid, ending on November the 15th. That is the case where we might have a pre-patch that only lasts a couple of weeks after the season. And lastly, if we have only 4 raid cycles, so 4 resets, 4 weeks per every one of the 3 raids in this expansion, ending in the end of October, that's when we might get a Season 4 end plus a full month of pre-patch. That's why I was interested in these 3 different cycles of the raid, 6, 5, and 4, with 3 different timelines for the release of Dragonflight. Of course, this might all be useless because Blizzard might just not care about making a full cycle of raids and just stop the season whenever. Perhaps they won't even care about stopping mid-rotation of the raids and just plan the expansion to come out or the pre-patch to come out in the middle of it. But assuming we will be following a cycle system of the 3 raids for the fated raid system, these are the 3 different timelines we might be following for the release of Dragonflight. That being said, I'm still somewhat worried because yes, we have gotten new news about the release of Season 4, but still we have gotten no news about Dragonflight. I was expecting with this very new developer insight update to get some more info, to get some more news about Dragonflight, but instead still it looks like we are not getting anything yet. So situation is getting more and more intriguing as to what is Blizzard planning for Dragonflight, because, you know, by this point, even if we assume this possible prediction to be true, the expansion at this point must be some 5 months away and we still know nothing. It is, you know, it is a thin line, a very thin line between intriguing and worrying, this silence about Dragonflight. But for now, I'm going to limit myself to be cautiously optimistic at the very least until I see more and I can gauge the situation of the development for Dragonflight. So for the moment I won't cast too many hasty judgments about the situation. I'll just wait a little bit more, and I'm gonna stop the day this Friday, this start of the weekend, with this news about the beginning of Season 4. I hope whoever is currently trying to push through Rigalon or just start a Jailer will be able to get their cutting edge in time, given the nerfs coming. We don't know yet which nerfs are coming, but they are coming, so I hope it's gonna be enough for you to get your cutting edge, given the difficulty of this tier. But for now, this is where we are stopping. Thank you guys for watching the video and for helping to contribute to the growth of the channel in any way you can, which includes also, as usual, liking and commenting down below on this video, as well as subscribing to the channel. Also, for further support, you can follow me on Twitter, as well as subscribing to my Patreon to get access to my Discord channel to continue supporting the channel. With this being said, it's time to leave. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys soon, and in the meantime, it's not too bad of an idea actually, using shades to cover my poor weary eyes from the lights staying in front of me. I don't mind it actually.